The point that I think I want to connect the Charter with now is the point that I advertised slightly earlier on, and that is the link, if you like, between the present of the Union, the future of the Union, and the past of the Union, at least by reference to the Treaty of Rome. So I want to travel back in time now to 1957 and to Article 2 of the Treaty of Rome. And our concern here is to see, again, what values or objectives or interests the Union commits itself to. So, Article 2 of the Treaty of Rome. Quote, "The Union shall set itself the following objectives: to promote economic and social progress and a high level of employment, and to achieve balanced and sustainable development, in particular through the creation of an area without internal frontiers, through the strengthening of economic and social cohesion, and through the establishment of economic and monetary union, including a single currency, in accordance with the provisions of this treaty." Let's just think about what Article 2 is telling us. First of all, note the objectives of the Union: to promote economic and social progress. Not just economic progress, it's the article links together economic and social progress. And perhaps both these terms are linked to a high level of employment. Not full employment, which I suppose would be one of the key provisions of certain politics within European nation states, the politics of social democracy, but a high level of employment. In the end, I suppose if there's a balancing between the market and social protection, the market always wins out in European Union terms, and perhaps there's a problem with that. So at least we have a commitment to a high level of employment rather than full employment, and the need to achieve balanced and sustainable development. Words that perhaps ring rather peculiarly in this age of austerity, and particularly if you are a Greek citizen, then the activities of the Union, and certainly in alliance with the IMF and the World Bank, certainly don't seem to be achieving balanced and sustainable development, rather the unravelling of the welfare state in the interests of returning banks to profitability. Clearly there is a war over the meaning of the European Union, but it's interesting that if we read Article 2 in the light of what's happening today, we can at least see some degree to which social development is as important, possibly perhaps less important, but at least mentioned as a foundational value to the European Union in Article 2 of the treaty. Interesting to reflect on that in the context of events of our days anyway. Note that the Article 2 goes on to talk about the creation of an area without internal frontiers. This is obviously what I'm referring to when I'm referring to a trade bloc. It's to enable trade between the nations that make up the European Union. We have no tariffs, we have no frontiers within these countries. It enables trade between these countries. Through the strengthening of economic and social cohesion, and through the establishment of economic and monetary union, ultimately including a single currency in accordance with the provisions of this treaty. The UK at the moment is not part of the euro, the currency of the European Union. As I've said, the UK seems to sit on it's an island, isn't it? It sits to the side of Europe, to the edge of Europe. Perhaps in some ways the British are reluctant Europeans. Politically in the United Kingdom at the moment there seems to be discussion of a referendum which would address whether or not the UK remains within the European Union. Clearly these are all complex and problematic arguments, but our concern here, I think, there's always going to be a tension within this supranational organisation, which is meant in a sense to reflect and to articulate the interests of those nations that make up the Union. There's always going to be a tension perhaps between that general attempt to define the good of the Union and individual nations' perception of whether or not they are obtaining benefits or disadvantages from their membership. That's probably one of the features of European politics that we can't really go into again. I mean, it's an issue that sits on the sidelines of our concern with the law here. That then, our discussion of Article 2 perhaps is trying to get at some of the foundational ideas, perhaps the tensions between foundational ideas in the Union.